Yo, yo, man, people are here already. It's like I announced it ahead of time. She thinks communism is sexy. It really turns her on. Sophie the communist is gonna debate me. She's braver than a lot of people and haters on YouTube. Sophie, are you in here? Are you in the Are you Sophie? Can you guys hear me first of all? Hoo-doo! What's up, Johnny? Anthony? Thumbs up? Thumbs up for Sophie being brave enough to have a debate, a conversation where Donut, Mike the former cop, Caps for Cops did it by accident and got schooled. The guy from California never came through to explain to me why traffic code is for your safety, and that's why they should be able to use guns against you for your own safety. Here comes Stalker Boy. That was fast. So how about some thumbs up? How's everyone doing? Anthony, talk about local knowledge problem with communism. Affirmative. I'm not going to be able to read too many comments. Los Angeles checking in. What up? New message received. So, how's everyone doing? It's not real communism. All right. This should be a friendly debate, hopefully. Hopefully she doesn't call me names and say that I'm a fascist dictator, capitalist pig. I'm going to call her right now. Never talked to her before, never met her, yet she has the intestinal fortitude to come on a live stream and have a debate about her ideas because she believes in her ideas, unlike other people who force their ideas upon you with literal force and violence. So, please go to the description and subscribe to her channel. It's free. It doesn't cost you nothing. And again, this is the first person knowingly brave enough to do a live debate with me. Is the volume good? Who's the stalker? The thing is, they think I don't know who they are. That's the funny part.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Let me see if they can hear you.
Okay. Sweet. All right.
How's it going?
It's going. It's going, man. I don't know. I've had a crazy morning. I woke up and just had one of those moments. You ever have one of those moments, a little TMI, but you ever have one of those moments you just wake up, you just gotta go. As soon as you wake up, it's the first thought on your mind. It's like, I gotta go.
Go where?
I had a morning like that, man. So, how about you? How are you feeling?
Where are you trying to go?
Oh, I had to go to the bathroom. I said that I was trying not to be too TMI. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm very, yeah.
I'm trying to be candid without being, inappropriate.
I thought maybe that was a euphemism for leaving regular life behind and going and eloping in Las Vegas.
No, I mean, if I could have my druthers, I'd just, go return to monkey somewhere in the woods. But it's not as accessible as you'd think,
So what's your name?
My name is Phoebe. Phoebe Ophelia.
Phoebe Ophelia. And where are you from?
I'm from, I won't get the town because in this day and age,
that's fine.
Not all that wise, but I'm from Missouri, southeastern Missouri.
Most of your life, or?
Originally from Mississippi. Huh?
Oh, Mississippi originally?
Yeah, from Mississippi originally.
And can I ask your age range?
Yeah, I'm 22. I'm totally chill with that information. I'm pretty forthcoming with most stuff. I just,
Are you
where I live exactly.
Are you in a cafeteria right now?
No, I'm actually in my living room, and there's someone with a movie on in another room.
I see. Okay. So, everyone, you can hear her and me. Is that right?
Yep. Just let me know if you can't hear me, because
I can hear you
on the chat as well.
I hear you fantastic. I just want to make sure everyone can hear you. And they can also hit the thumbs up if you can hear me. If I see a bunch of thumbs up, I know you can hear me. And her.
I mean, so far it's up to 31, which isn't a bad number.
Well, I go by ratios, you see. All right, they can hear us.
So what's okay? Sweet.
All right.
Sweet.
You want to do an opener? You want to say anything to open up the conversation?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, I do. So, I feel like communism has been misrepresented by the bulk of people that have been talking about it throughout history, particularly political powers. So when it comes to the Soviet Union, China, Venezuela, there's an abundance of other countries I could mention. There are a lot of countries who have written on the theoretical backing of communism while still engaging in a capitalistic market and the shared division of labor, as well as compartmentalized farming and all of these other programs that ended up basically dooming those countries to a pretty depressing fate, right? We all know what happened to the Soviet Union in the 90s. We all know what's happening to China right now. They say they're communist, but they have this giant international marketplace that they're a big intrinsic part of. My ideas are not about giant political superpowers, and you have this phrase that I like to go back to a lot, and I've thought about it over the first few times, or since the first few times we talked on chat, government at the end of the gun. And I'd like to have you kind of explain to me what that means to you and how you think it relates to communism.
Well, government through the barrel of a gun?
Yes.
Government through the barrel of a gun is when the government is like basically one big super political power. Everybody's even, and if somebody doesn't want to be part of that system or be an independent or be a someone that is more motivated than you're that. Sophie, that background noise is horrible.
Let me turn it down. Give me just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna have to try a different microphone, I guess. Or not a different microphone, but I don't even know which microphone is.
Like, you sound fantastic right now, and I don't hear any background noise.
Okay, I sound fine now.
And there's no background. It's the background noise. I can't even hear myself think with that going on.
Right. I mean, I have a computer in a location that's central to the home, and
I got you.
I can't always convince the person I live with to turn things down. So
can you just go by phone instead of through the computer?
I won't be able to stream, but yeah. I mean, I think
we'll have one good stream instead of two bad ones.
Right. Yeah, I mean, given that I don't really have another option, I guess I'll just take the conversation upstairs.
You can, not only that, you could take my video, record the whole thing, and publish it and edit it any way you want. I mean, you know what I mean. Don't make me look like a bad guy, but you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, I don't think you look like a bad guy. I think the fact that I should just have a computer set up somewhere else in another room, but I don't know my own computer right now. It's okay.
So. Would you be willing to call me back in a quiet place?
Yeah, let me do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks. All right. What's she saying? Government through the barrel of a gun? For my little crash coursing, 4 in the morning, like a student. Communism is basically all the means of production, factories, farms, is centralized to the state in one giant political party, usually Communist Party, and then redistributed amongst the people evenly. So even though this guy may produce 20 times more than this guy or have 100 times the knowledge, I mean, if one guy's a doctor and one guy's a garbage man and they both get the same wage, why does anyone want to go through the hell of becoming a doctor when you can literally ride in the back of a truck and you get the same amount of money? Or wash dishes and get the same amount of money. You don't have to put any strain on your brain or your brain through a lot of physical strain. So what happens is, slowly but surely, as Sophie finds a quiet place we can talk, slowly but surely the people are like, well, why should I try harder than him? Because it won't get me ahead of him. I'm just trying hard. He's trying less, and then they average it out, and then we slowly but surely averaging, average, slowly average us. Okay, here we go.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome back to Debating with Phoebe.
Can you hear me okay now?
I hear you.
Better?
Fantastic. How about me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I mean, I could never not hear you fine. It's just, like I said, I live with someone who plays movies really loud. I guess they had hearing damage or something. I don't know. But
I understand. I also have hearing
damage.
damage. That's why I can't hear anything when there's background noise.
I mean, I have autism, so it's hard for me to differentiate between sounds. So if there's two different things going on, two different people talking to me at once, you know what I mean?
Yes.
I get it from a different direction.
So let's go back to you asked me something about something, and then I lost my mind.
Right. I asked you about government at the end of a gun, right?
Right.
So how does that, what does that mean in your life, and what does that mean when you think about communism?
So let's try to define or come to a central standpoint on communism. Communism is the state. The state controls all means of production, correct?
That's not exactly all of it, right?
Right.
So that's part of it.
Give me some more.
So communism is one of those beautiful things that, well, first of all, let me give a little background on the left because, you know, having kind of been in your audience for a while, they skew more center to, you know, right outside of that, basically, right? There's a lot of people that are not super politically invested in one direction or the other, and so they might not know the nuances of what it's like to be a far leftist, but they're not like people on the right, right? People on the right are very lockstep and understanding of what their mission is. People on the left, not so much. You've got everything from authoritarian communists to anarcho-communists, and I don't argue from the standpoint of an authoritarian communist. So that's when you have state control of all the means of production, and it's, you know, the idea of it is to, well, I mean, there's a lot of ideas behind it, but that's what you're talking about right now is authoritarian communism. I'm an anarcho-communist, right? So I believe in the complete logical through point of Marx's ideas, which is that we all sort of uphold that society ourselves without any implicit threat of force. I hope that all made sense. I know that there's a lot.
So yeah, so let me pause. So the communism I'm referring to is more authoritarianism, Stalin, Lenin style.
Right.
And so the communism, you're saying anarcho-communism, in other words, a voluntary communism.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, that's the idea, but let's talk about the logistics of that, because that sounds fantastic.
I mean, I think it does.
What's that?
I said I was agreeing with you. I said I think it does.
Now okay, so think of the logistics of that and human nature. So I would like all of us to be voluntarily nonviolent to each other too, but again, human nature fights that. In a voluntary communist society is next to nearly impossible to accomplish without threat of force, without you have to do this. You have to be part of the greater good, whether you like it or not. There is no such thing as voluntary communism, and that could never even come to fruition logistically.
Okay. I was waiting to make sure you're pausing there.
Sure.
So again, I don't want to make excuses for Stalin. I don't want to make excuses even for Lenin because, you know, a lot of leftists call themselves Marxist-Leninists,
and I don't take that title for myself because, frankly, I don't know enough about the Bolshevik Revolution to know if I should. That being said, you know, a lot of my problems that I have personally with communism kind of, for a long time, rested around this, you know, this kind of implicit need for force. I kind of, you know, intimated it earlier when I said that, but really, it comes down to getting there. So we don't start out as the, you know, perfect anarcho-communist utopia where everything gets, you know, one for all and all for one or whatever. That doesn't happen. And I'm also not all about the idea of people going around in black suits and big guns taking away excess food product in big trucks. I think that's a pretty fundamentally immoral idea. Here's what I'd go for first. Imagine that you live in a world where whatever job you work is not only pleasant to you because of the work that it, you know, the work that it involves, but pleasant because when you get to work, you know that you have a community of other workers who have maybe nothing else in common with you except the fact that they labor together with you at that, you know, I don't know where you currently work, but, you know, for me, it's a nursing home, you know what I mean? And I know, imagine if I knew every day when I went in there that I had a union protecting me, you know what I mean? That's where it all starts in my mind.
Protecting you from who?
Less about communism and less about shooting people down if they don't give their extra food, and more about figuring out a way for workers to take back a little bit of the power that has been wrested from them over the last 30, 40, 50 years.
What kind of power specifically?
So there used to be, and you're old enough probably to remember this. I know I'm not old enough to remember it, sadly. I have to read books about it. I have to listen to other people talk about it. I listen to my grandpa talk about it, who was a union foreman for decades. And there used to be a very, very profound labor movement in this country. There used to be a movement around people not only believing in the power of labor, but in the power of uniting with one another. And I remember reading about black people, gay people, Hispanic people, and white racist people, and, you know, non-white racist people, and hippies, and everybody uniting together on that line in solidarity for the advancement of their labor. That's the power that I want to take back, because right now, if your boss says that they want to dock your pay, you've got two options. You've got take it take it on the chin, and you've got find a different workplace.
What do you mean by
work?
I'm sorry, what do you mean they want to dock your pay? What do you mean?
You know, it's like, I'm trying to think of an example where it's happened to me. The usual way it happens now is by someone taking away a bunch of your hours for hourly labor. Again, I don't know if you have a salaried job or what job you do right at this moment.
I'm working right now.
All right. So sweet. Then exactly. So like you, I would assume probably control your own pay rate. But if you had like a job at like a Walmart or something, you know, factory, the way it would usually happen is they'd either dock your hours by just taking you from a 40-hour week to a 30-hour week,
right?
Or they would actually, you know, take some of your pay by saying, you know, we have this going on in the company, restructuring going on, and hey, this is the new pay rate. That's what's happened to me in my life is, you know, having someone just tell me what I'm worth basically has changed, has went down, despite the fact that my quality of work has not changed. You know, and that power used to be in our hands. Used to when a boss said, I don't think we're going to pay you that much anymore. I think we want to pay you this much. The union was able to say, no, these workers are worth, you know, this amount of money. We know what this labor is worth in this marketplace, and we know what we're worth as people, and we know how much we can do for other companies. So here's how much you'll pay us. And if you don't, then we'll all walk out. And not only will we walk out, we'll stand out in the front of the gate. And we won't let scabs in. And if you come to take us down, then there'll be 4,000 people here tomorrow from the greater national union. So now that doesn't exist right now, but I'd like to bring that power. Sorry.
That's okay. So I know what you're talking about because I was a cook for many, many years. And, you know, the restaurant, depending on how much money it made, it was depending on how many customers were in there. And then depending on how many customers were in there is depending on how many cooks you need. So they say, all right, man, you got to get out of here 3 hours into your 8-hour shift. And you had no control over it. Okay, and you're right.
Yeah.
And you're right about that. Your options are keep working there and accepting that, or find a different job, or create your own way, or open your own restaurant. Guess which one I did?
I'm assuming you probably opened your own restaurant. The way you talk so glowingly.
I opened 3 restaurants.
Oh, that's dope. Congratulations.
So now, under communism, am I allowed to open those 3 restaurants and be my own individual self? And
of course,
I am.
Of course. There are some ideas of communism that don't allow for that, but if you'd like to, I can explain how that would be possible.
Let me get one more question in.
Yeah.
As a cook to the restaurant, I felt important. I felt like my labor was worth XYZ. And just so you know, line cooks of restaurants basically getting the same wage since 1970s. It hasn't gone up.
I was a line cook for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
So I understand where you're coming from, and I always thought about things like, why don't we all band together as cooks? But then you got to look at the other side of the restaurant. As a line cook making $10 an hour, how much money did I invest in that restaurant?
Wait, how much money did you invest in the restaurant?
Right. How much money did I invest into building it, conceptualizing it, getting all the logistics down, hiring everybody, bringing it all together?
Probably not a whole lot, but you've contributed significantly with your labor.
Hold on. So the place was up and running before I got there. It's up and running well after I'm gone. The only thing I contributed to that restaurant is my labors and skills. That's it. I have no money I'm going to lose if the restaurant goes under. I don't have, if the restaurant fails, I lose my job. That guy might have lost his whole life savings and dreams. So you have to balance as how much, and the thing, like you're saying, anarcho-communism, that's more like a voluntary socialism. Like all of us cooks could have put $5,000 each, got $50,000, and opened up the Cooks Union restaurant down the street to compete with the former restaurant. The issue becomes is when they put a gun in your face and say, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to compete with your boss. You're not. That's where the issue comes. My only issue with any type of socialism, communism, blah, 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 is that it almost inevitably becomes corrupt, and violence and force is used to accomplish the logistics of it, because the majority of, especially Americans, are not just going to say, I'm going to bust my ass while that other guy down the street does nothing and gets the same amount of money. Sorry to filibuster.
No, it's okay. I've got enough radio etiquette to know that, when someone's making a point, you let them. That being said, I think that there's this kind of false idea, and I'm not saying that you're necessarily perpetrating it, but I'm, having read a lot of kind of competing philosophy on the topic, there's this idea, particularly in America, that capitalism is the more peaceful option, that it's the more laissez-faire option if you're considering, the 3 major economic ideas to be capitalism, socialism, and communism. If you consider that to be pretty much the gamut of economic systems, they pretty much all involve at some level implicit violence until you get to the anarchist beliefs, in which case you don't have a state, and therefore you don't have a mass organization to have that I'm trying to think of the word, but it's slipping me. Basically, the complete unification of all power, the monopoly of violence. There we go. I couldn't think of it. So capitalism has that too, though, right? And it's something I call the enforced transaction. What happens if you don't pay your rent?
But you're under contract.
Well, of course, you're under contract. So what happens if you break contract?
You breach. Well, if you breach your contract, you went against your word, and the consequences. There's no excuse there.
Well, just pretend like I don't know what the process is. What happens?
You don't know the process that you signed your name to?
Well, let's just pretend like I don't. I'm trying to make a point, and it's better if you say it than me.
Right. So you're saying you signed a contract unwillingly, unknowingly?
No, I'm saying, let's say I signed the contract knowing that I need a house, and let's say I've been a good citizen for the last 20 years, never been evicted, never had anyone have any reason to, take me to court over over a broken contract,
Mm-hmm.
or a breach of contract,
Mm-hmm.
and then suddenly, for whatever reason, I lose my job or I just forget to send the payment in for 3 months. Whatever reason, I get that call from my landlord like, "Hey, Phoebe, hey girl, I know it's, you know, hard, but it's time to pay rent." And let's just say that that progresses to an eviction. What happens? What happens physically to me?
Here's what happens. You prepare yourself for your situation. What do you mean? What happens? You signed a contract. You agreed to it. You have to go by your word. And how is the landowner supposed to pay their bills if you don't pay your bills? It's all connected with each other. They don't
Right,
get
so
they
it
don't
should
get
be
all that
voluntary,
they don't
right?
get that property for free.
That's the idea behind capitalism, that it should be voluntary, that everything should be voluntary. So
It is voluntary. Well, that is voluntary. You volunteered to pay X amount of dollars per month for so much time, and if you fail to do so, you're in breach of contract. What's not voluntary about it?
I'll tell you what's not voluntary about it. So if you fail to, and again, this point is made way better if the oppositional person in the debate makes the point. But if I were to fail to make my rent for a certain number of days, it depends state to state, I'm sure. But in Missouri, if I were to leave this house and not pay the rent for 3 or 4 months, just leave it unpaid, a sheriff would show up to my door.
Right.
And let's just say that I just finished making dinner and I'm having a real good day, and I open up the door all jolly and I'm like, "Well, good evening, officer. I've just made dinner. Want to sit down for a meal and figure out what's going on today?" And we have a good conversation, and about the end of the meal, he says, "Well, I got to be honest here. I'm here with some pretty dark news. You've got to leave your house." And I say, "Well, I understand that, but I've lived here 20 years. My blood, sweat, and tears worked into this land. I've repaired this house. I've got furniture in this house that, I'd rather not move, and this is where I live. This is where all the edible plants that I know about live. This is where all the edible animals that I know about live. This is where the stream that I drink from is. This is where the road that I take to work is. This is my life." And if you say, "I'm not going to leave," the sheriff is going to take out a gun and he's going to point it in your face and tell you have to leave. And if you continue to say that you won't, he's going to pull the trigger and he's going to kill you.
Well, you're on someone's property, but you're on somebody's private property.
Just as much as this is, but
I'm
the
sorry.
difference is that one person in there. I'm just saying, capitalism is just as much government at the end of a gun as communism is. The difference is the workers don't have any power in capitalism. So people in power have all the power, and the people that work for them, the police, have the rest of it. I always say that there's no more powerful official in this world than your beat cop.
All right. So your premise is you're 4 months behind on your rent. You're having a fantastic day, going about life as if your rent's paid up, and suddenly out of nowhere, sheriffs show up to evict you.
Sure. Yeah, you can have a great day despite your rent not being paid. I certainly do.
So you're 4 months behind on rent, and you don't believe that at some point there's going to be a knock at the door because you're literally in breach of contract on somebody else's property.
Of course I do, but if the breach of contract is the main dig here, why can't we just have a similar contract that works within communism? See, that's the problem, is that you can't just say
hold on. I'm sorry.
You can't just say that it's government at the end of a gun when it's communism, because that's different, and then capitalism isn't government at the end of a gun. A gun's being pointed either way.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. I feel you're wrong there, because no gun would be pointed at you if you fulfilled what you agreed to. You agreed. Right, nobody forced you to sign a contract. You agreed. Once you breach that contract, you're on somebody else's property. And I know you don't like that idea. And if you don't like that idea, you have to buy your own property or buy your own apartment complex or whatever the case may be. You can't enforce your will and your ideas on someone else's private property just because you don't believe in private property. What's the difference if a cop shows up or if the landowner himself shows up and says you got to go? The government put themselves in between us.
If the landowner himself showed up, well, first of all, I'd have a significantly higher amount of respect for the landowner actually showing up and saying, listen, bud, I know times are tough, but you gotta go. I would have a way more respect for that than a government, whatever. I'm not going to go too hard on the cops.
The landlord,
YouTube, but
The,
you know, I'd have a what?
the landlord
What?
did. The landlord did give you prior notice. 7 days, 3 days, 30 days.
Yeah, again, that's not the point. The point is not the amount of notice. The point is not the contract. The point is the gun. And I want to make that point again. See, here's the thing.
Well, how are you supposed to defend your property? I don't understand.
So, once again, when it comes to the ideas that we live in right now, which, by the way, we don't live in a capitalist country.
I know that.
We haven't lived in one since, I would say, about 1914 when the first income tax was.
I would have said 1913, but okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what the exact date is, but you know, somewhere in the early 1900s, this country transitioned away from a place where slave labor was allowed, children worked in factories, coal miners died at 30, to a place where people have labor rights, and that was primarily because we stopped being a capitalist country. It's no big surprise that it only took about 50 years of slavery to be gone for capitalism to become fundamentally unsustainable for this country. It's no surprise that it didn't take about 5, 6, 7 years after child labor in factories became illegal for capitalism to become unsustainable in this country for it to continue. And you'll notice that it's been going for about 100 years now, and, you know, except for the last 2 decades, I'd say, it's been going pretty strong. I mean, the 50s were a pretty great, like, cool time, even from a bigotry standpoint. I mean, it sucks, but, like, we were prospering, you know what I mean? We were prospering in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, too, and a lot of that was due to the social safety net and the labor movement, but that's a diversion from the point. When I think about this gun analogy that we keep getting back to, when I think about what it actually means for our lives, I keep thinking about the fact that just a few days ago, officers surrounded a dumpster in Portland after large amounts of perishable food had been dumped into the dumpster on a very, very, very cold day. I'm sure you've heard about and I'm sure you've experienced some of the awful weather going through the Midwest.
I live in Florida.
And you live in where?
Florida.
Oh, Florida. Okay. Your call said it came from the Midwest, so I wasn't sure.
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, originally.
All right, that makes sense. So, well, you know, suffice to say, it's been very, very cold across most of the West and Midwestern U.S. And, you know, just 4 days ago, police surrounded a dumpster where perishable food that was still fine. Most of it had expiration dates in March, if not later on in the year, and pointed guns at people that were trying to get trash food. Now, why do you think they did that? Do you think that they did that actually to protect the public? Because people later went in, after the cops left, they went into that dumpster and they took what hadn't been destroyed in the interim, and they found thousands of items with dates marked well after, you know, the date that it was presently. So do you think that they were doing that for the good of the people? Do you think that they were doing that for the good of the business? Or do you think that they were doing that so that those people wouldn't be able to get free food and therefore have less of an incentive to provide money to a capital owner for that food? See, the transaction is just as enforced in capitalism. You're not allowed to go off and make your own land. If you go off into the woods and make your own hut, eventually a forest ranger is going to stop by there and he's going to get you off that land and say that you have to pay for that land.
Right. Why would you get free land? How do you get free land?
If you don't pay to exist in this country, someone with a gun will come to your house or wherever you live, point it at you, and make you do that.
What do you mean by pay to exist?
Just as much as communism.
All right, Phoebe, you're very passionate and I love it, but we got to shorten it down to like 30 seconds to 1 minute, so we can both get it. So we can both get a word in edgewise. I want to go back to the landlord thing. Why do you believe that when you're in breach of contract, you get to just keep staying on someone else's property? I don't understand that.
Because I don't believe in privately held property like that. I don't believe landlords should exist.
Okay, so where would you live then? If landlords
live wherever.
What do you mean wherever? What does that mean?
Okay. Do you think that houses would cease to exist because landlords do? Do you think that the law was introduced to make landlords not a thing? Do you think the houses would just disappear?
The thing is, Phoebe, I'm trying to ask you. I'm trying to ask you direct questions, and you want to go back into like.
I'm trying to ask you a direct question. Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm trying to ask you a question in response to
well, let's do it one at a time.
I'm trying to attempt this, you know.
Let's
I'm trying
do
to take you down the line of logic here.
So if there wasn't landlords, what would be left? There would be so you wouldn't be able to rent a home. So you would only be able to buy homes?
If you want to know my perfect idea for this, because see, you can't just remove landlords in a capitalist system unless you can, but that's completely different. That's a completely different ball of wax.
But
If we're talking about transitioning this system into a new one, I think housing co-op. Sorry, my voice is getting a little cloggy. I think housing co-ops are probably the best option that I've personally looked into. Brief idea of that is that you no longer have housing controlled by individual landlords creating rental contracts for individual renters. You instead have a conglomeration, kind of like a union of homeowners, right? So the people who actually live in the houses that are, occupied right now can get together as a community of people that live next to one another. And those among them who, and again, it sounds utopian, but those among them who have construction experience, who have, home maintenance or repair experience, help to maintain the houses of everyone else. And in return, the idea is that the other people share the products of whatever their labor might be. Now, again, housing co-ops are a bit hard to implement in capitalism because what you're basically talking about is just paying a few people to maintain all the houses in a neighborhood, which is basically what's done now, but through a landlord and the government. So that's my idea.
So instead of landlord, you want it to be all the people in a neighborhood put money into a pool voluntarily?
I mean, money into a pool is one way it could work. Just dividing the labor equally.
Why can't that be done under a capitalist system?
It can be. It's just it's being done under a capitalist system. It's just being done really badly and at the expense of a lot of people who are homeless. Do you have any homeless friends?
Yes.
What are their names?
Eric Brandt.
Okay. So have you ever been inside a homeless shelter?
I probably have.
Probably. The thing of it is, there's actually a lot of places used as homeless shelters. People don't know this, but there's a lot of places used as homeless shelters in their off hours that are something else. For example, in a lot of cities, school gymnasiums become homeless shelters at about 6 p.m. At least in some of the cities I've been in. I'm not going to say that that's a universal thing. The reason I bring that up is because I've been homeless personally. And
me too. I've been there.
Homeless people in my life.
Okay.
Right, and that has admittedly colored my experience on this whole thing. But what I've seen in my life is that those of us who don't pay a landlord, I should say, for our life, people who are, for whatever reason, not engaging in that part of the transaction. Number one, they are consistently fucked with by the cops. When I was living in my car, I never dealt with the cops nearly as much. Let me say that a different way. I dealt with the cops more when I was living in my car than I ever have being housed up.
That's because they target the homeless. That's not a secret.
Why do they target the homeless? Why do they target the homeless? Do you think it's just because they hate them?
It's because of socialism. If you want to be honest, they're enforcing socialist policies. The cities don't want homeless people around. It makes their city look bad, and they're doing it socially because they're not doing it under any type of law, because the law would dictate that the police not only help but protect those people, and they're doing the exact opposite.
Honestly, no, the law definitely doesn't say that, at least not in Missouri. In Missouri,
yes, it does.
There's pretty clear, no, hold on. I live in the state and I've been homeless in the state. In Missouri, there are very clear vagrancy laws regarding.
Well, that's unconstitutional. Yeah, but that's unconstitutional.
Well, you know what else is unconstitutional? Like the vast majority of things that police engage in on a day-to-day.
Correct, because they stopped following capitalism. They stopped following the system of freedom and started following a more socialist way of policing. They're not policing any law. They're policing socialist ideas. They're policing their feelings. They're not going by the law, because if they went by the law, people like you and I and homeless people would be the first to be looked after, not the last.
Okay, so what law is that? Can you cite me some legal theory? Because I've read a bunch of laws.
Right to assemble.
And I don't remember.
Right to assemble. Freedom of travel.
Right to assemble does not protect you from the does not protect you from trespassing law. It does not protect you from vagrancy law. And
What tell me what vagrancy law is, please.
That thing is covered.
What is vagrant? Give me an idea of vagrancy law.
Vagrancy law? One time I was sleeping under a bridge in Park Hills, Missouri. I woke up to police yelling, "What are y'all doing down there?" When I came up to ask them what they were doing down there, in what was at that time my home, I was told that there were vagrancy laws covering not only this area but the entire state of Missouri.
Was it
pretty clearly?
Were you on public land?
I think everything is public land when a cop is around. It doesn't matter. I was under a bridge. I think I just made that clear. So
okay, but hold on a second.
I've never seen a publicly, or I'm sorry, I've never seen a privately held bridge.
So okay, so let me answer that. If you're in public and you're doing nothing wrong, and they created a law that says that's illegal, that law is illegal. And just because they enforce it through the barrel of a gun doesn't make it legal. So they're wrong.
Okay, but why don't? Okay, I'm just wondering what the disconnect here is. Are we talking past each other, John? Because when I look at what you say about my ideas, I keep hearing phrases that are very fear-mongery, like government at the end of a gun, and all these other ideas that suggest that socialism is some bastardly idea that takes your freedom from you.
But it is. How do you implement it otherwise?
But the thing is,
how would you implement it without using threat of force?
Can I finish my point?
Sure.
The thing is, in capitalism, I've had guns pointed at me for not doing the right, not for not doing the right thing, because I've never done a criminal act besides buy weed. But, outside of that, I've had guns pointed, well, I guess that and vagrancy. A lot of vagrancy. But,
again, that's not illegal.
It totally is. I don't know why you think it isn't either.
Because you have the,
because you don't know that it isn't illegal or that it isn't, I cannot talk today. I don't know how you don't know that it is totally illegal to just sleep wherever you want.
In public?
Homeless sites get hooked up. Why do you think benches get built with big holes in the middle?
I'm going to tell you.
That just happens?
Can I answer?
Just somewhat. Yeah, I would love to hear an answer. Like, I would love to hear
because
about why that's okay in capitalism and why people are allowed to put guns at other people in capitalism. I'm just curious.
Well, what you're describing is not capitalism. Capitalism is a free market and voluntary exchange. Okay. What you're describing is government passed an unconstitutional law that goes against your fundamental rights, and they're pointing guns at you. That has nothing to do with any type of free market, any type of constitutional anything. The First Amendment says you have a right to assemble and freedom of movement, and if you're in public, you're allowed to be there. Now, if they pass laws that say you're not allowed to, and they're enforcing them through the barrel of a gun, they're doing that outside of the law and the Constitution. And that's where we need to fight back. I'm sorry?
How do you not get that?
How
do you not get that?
What?
Man? I'm not trying to be aggressive here.
How do I not get what?
I've got to ask you, how do you not get
what?
That they are the law? That they are the law. There is no more powerful official on this planet.
Yes, there is.
Than the average American beat cop.
Yes, there is.
Not.
Yes, there is.
Not. No, there is not.
So you're saying that all of us as a people.
Who else can point a gun at you in the street and kill you and get away with it? Who else can take your fucking license and say you don't get this anymore? Who else can pull you over when you're just going about your day and say you did some shit you didn't do, and when it comes to court, they'll get away with it? Who else can pull cuffs out?
That's all socialism.
Record for 12 months.
That's socialism.
That's not socialism.
Absolutely, it is.
That's happening in the most capitalistic country on the planet. That's happening right here at home.
How is anything you described a voluntary exchange by two consenting parties?
Voluntary exchange by two consenting parties?
Yeah, which one of those things that you explained is that?
It's a bullshit myth. Okay, it's a bullshit myth.
Hey, please don't cuss. Just don't cuss.
Huh?
Please don't cuss. That's all I'm asking.
It's a completely absurd, asinine myth propagated by capitalists who believe they have the right to dictate what everyone else does, but that no one else has the right to organize against them. It is absurd.
Who said what? That's not American. That's not American at all, what you just said.
I don't care about anything being American. I don't care about America.
That's not the law.
As a political organization.
That's not the law.
I care about, okay, that's fine. I care about America as the country I live in, as a place that I occupy, not as a political identity.
Okay. Me too. And freedom's a part of it.
Why do you care so much about the Constitution?
Because it's the only thing we have left that says the government can't do the things you're describing to us.
But it does the things we're describing to us, so it doesn't matter.
Because we're not doing anything about it.
What are we supposed to do about it, John?
Exactly what we're doing right now. Exactly what we're doing right now. We talk about it and we put a stop to it and we get together. We get together voluntarily.
Man, that's absurd.
What's absurd?
Okay. See, it's absurd that this circular line of logic happens every time I talk to a capitalist. You know, it's like we have the right. You just said something that would be so beautiful if it wasn't coming from someone who believes in this, you know, totally unfree, this totally confined system of economics like capitalism. You just said we have the right to organize, we have the, you know, ability to get together. And when I brought up unions, your response was to say, well, what will the business owners do then?
What?
So I don't think you actually.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said with the mocking voice. Could you just say it in a clearer voice? What did I say about unions?
You said, what will the business owners do if the union happens? You didn't say exactly that, but I'm paraphrasing.
No, I said, how much skin does a cook have in the restaurant?
And I'm not going to try to answer that specific question.
Because it's not, there's nothing there. They're exchanging this amount of labor for this amount of money. Nobody's holding them there by force. Nobody's forcing them to do it. It's all voluntary. And if they don't like it, they can create their own way. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. Nobody's forcing you to live in the apartment you agreed and signed to live in. You chose to do that. And then when you can't hold up your side of the agreement, you're upset because the guy who owns the property and has to pay his bills wants somebody in there that wants to pay the rent or can pay the rent.
So again, number one, I don't care about any contract or landlord. I think those things.
Well, if you don't care about contracts, then you're not good for what you say. A contract is two willing parties have the same idea. They're both volunteering to agree to a certain thing. You agreed. You agreed to a certain thing, and then you want to back out of it all and live somewhere for free because you fell on hard times. How is that some other guy's problem? He didn't do that to you.
It's not his problem.
Well, you want to make it his problem by taking away his income.
Can I talk now?
How long do you expect to live in an apartment for free because you fell on hard times? And how long should the landowner be without his income? What's the proper amount of time?
Hey, I don't think that a landowner should have income from his property. I think that landowner's property should be collectivized. I think that landowner's property should be deeded from him to the workers and laborers and the people who actually live in the community that he leeches off of by taking their rent every month. You know what a landlord really is at the end of the day?
Again, you're using the word leech. I'm sorry, Phoebe. You're saying the word leech when every single person he's doing business with voluntarily agreed to sign a contract. You can't just skip over that they're agreeing to do this. You're making it sound like he's forcing them to rent his properties.
Do you not realize that, like, have you ever rented a place before? I'm assuming
my mother owns apartments, and I've lived in rentals for decades.
Okay, so now I get why you've got such a defense.
And I've lived it.
Your mother is a landowner. Your mother's a capitalist. Of course.
My mom is not a capitalist.
Sense now. Yes, she is.
No, she's not.
She definitely is.
No, actually, she's not. She's a liberal from Greece.
That's okay.
So
I don't care what you say she is. She definitely is.
Okay, that's fine, Phoebe. And I understand you're getting upset, and you're not letting me speak.
I'm just, using my debate skills as appropriate to illustrate the absurdity of this point.
What point is absurd? That you can't live for free on someone else's land, or?
No, the point that's absurd is that you believe your mother isn't a capitalist because she claims to be a liberal, but still engages.
She doesn't claim to be anything. She's my mother, and she doesn't claim to be anything. She's my mom, and I know her very well. I don't want to
spend all this time talking about your mom, all right? I'd rather talk about me and you.
Well, okay, you're saying stuff about my mom. You asked me if I ever owned apartments.
Don't act like I'm the one who lied on the mom topic when you brought her up, man.
Phoebe, all right.
I can replay the video.
Let's reset. You asked me if I ever rented apartments, and I said yes for decades. And then I told you, and my mother owns apartments, and you took that and you flew off the handle like, oh my God, she's a capitalist who took her money that she earned, bought some land, and decided to turn a profit. Like there's something inherently wrong with turning a profit.
There is.
No, there isn't.
There Yes, there is. And you just don't want to believe that. We have
Oh,
different views on this, but I can explain mine if you'd like.
Okay, you can, but don't go on for 5 minutes. Let me get a word in every now and then. Go ahead.
Okay. So, okay. I feel like my brain needs a reset after all that.
You want to take a break? You want to take like 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
I at least need to fucking, that works.
All right.
I've got someone texting me trying to figure out.
You can leave the phone open or just call me back in about 5 minutes. I'll go take a breather.
Yeah, I'll call you back in like 5 minutes.
Very good.
Okay, bye.
Hang tight, everyone. Oh, hey, you guys still here, huh? Must be a good debate. Who's the my communism? Jeez, there's a lot of stuff here. Show. You guys think she's gonna? Oh, she's calling back. What am I talking about? I think she's gonna call back. Hey.
Huh?
Hi. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, you're welcome. For a minute there, I was like afraid you weren't going to have me back. I was like, did I make him mad? Did I? That's why I said I didn't.
Yeah, you made me mad.
I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I wasn't like trying to be that. I was like, let's get off of his sensitive topic.
Whether you make me mad or not, again, this is how it goes. We can agree to disagree. And again, you're the bravest. You understand? I've been trying to debate this disgusting person named Donut Operator for 3 years now. I've challenged him over 100 times. All these police. I don't know if you know, my police is like my channel's police accountability. You know that, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what drew me to you in the first place. I have a lot of respect for you, dude. Like, that's why I'm getting so passionate right now, is because I think you have a good head on your shoulders, and I think you could understand a lot of these concepts if they just weren't presented like I'm having the problem presenting them right now, you know? But yeah, I know what your channel's all about. Like, I watch a bunch of your videos.
Okay, so the things the police do, I don't agree with, and I don't believe they're lawful. It's not lawful what they done to you. Vagrancy laws are not lawful. That's your class warfare right there. That's anti-communist. That's, you know what I mean? You're putting people in classes. They look down on the homeless and they just want to eradicate them, and they treat them like rodents. As a matter of fact,
no, I totally agree.
As a matter of fact, my friend James McClinnis, who's run for Pinellas County Sheriff twice in the past 8 years, he was going to take all the money they used for the drug war, which was like almost $100 million, and he was going to build mini homes for the homeless. But the people didn't want him. The people want the guy who eradicates the homeless and, you know, is constantly patrolling the streets and keeping the riffraff at bay. They look at you as subhuman.
Right. Have you ever heard of a dude named George Carlin?
Of course.
I was listening to his book, Napalm and Silly Putty, last night, and he makes a great point towards the end. He's got this concept he talks about called NIMBY, not in my backyard. People don't want anything near them, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the problem with social help in the U.S. because, like, as sucky as it is, as horrible as this is for some people to think about, any help to the homeless is social help, right? Because the homeless are kind of prevented for, like, oftentimes the homeless are that way because they can't do the things that me and you could do to, like, have a house and shit. Like, I have a regular job now. When I was homeless, I had to play my guitar and sing for a living, you know, but that doesn't exactly pay the bills. Well, I mean, it can, but it wasn't in my case. You know what I mean? It was just paying for whatever little squat I had at the time and the food I needed and, you know, my medicine and all that. But, like, any sort of social help towards the homeless ends up becoming social help. And the thing is, I don't get why that's a bad thing. You know what I mean? I
Who's saying it is?
Like, why you have an issue with the compulsion of labor, which seems to be your big issue with communism, right? It's the compulsion, the fact that people are, you know, made to give something up that they didn't, you know, to someone who presumably didn't earn it, right?
If you threaten me with force for something that's mine and that I earned, you're a criminal. I don't care how you phrase it.
Okay, no, so I totally get that. All right, actually, I 100% get that. Let me ask you something. Do you know how much Jeff Bezos is worth?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know how much value he brought to the world?
I know how much value his laborers brought to the world by completing the things that he can't do as one person.
Right, but who created the concept? Who made it? Who gave all them employees a job? Who took all the risk? Who invested all the money and time and effort and brain power and skills? You guys always overlook that part.
No, we don't overlook it.
Well, you guys acted like Jeff Bezos came out of a magic egg and then boom, Amazon happened. I believe it's him and his wife started it as like a reading club or something, and it exploded. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And he deserves what he made. So, by the way, his wife just gave up $4 billion to charity. So everything
so
about
yeah,
Amazon and Bezos, for the most part, almost everything is a good thing, a positive thing for the world.
To you, not
What?
to me.
Tell me why you think otherwise. Do you not use Amazon?
I would, but you've been filibustering.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So when it comes to Amazon, do I think that Jeff Bezos earned some of what he, did? Yeah, of course. Jeff Bezos has every right to be, wealthy. He created a service, really. I wouldn't even call it a product. Jeff Bezos created a service that revolutionized the way people bought merchandise and revolutionized the way that stores planned out their logistical expansion. Revolutionized everything, really. If COVID had happened 20 years ago, it would have been a fucking nightmare compared to what it was this time, and it was already a fucking unmitigated nightmare.
Please don't cuss.
Jeff Bezos for is the fact, huh?
Please don't cuss. Cuss.
Well, I mean, we know the last pandemic that hit, the influenza, or not the influenza pandemic. What was the last really big one? It was
swine flu, swine flu, bird flu, H1N1.
I'm not talking about those ones though. I'm talking about the one back in the 1900s when they wore masks. Because there was another big pandemic where they had to wear masks like 100 years ago.
What about it?
I'm saying every pandemic has gotten significantly less of a big deal until this one because it was just, everything made it out to be. But, and a lot of the reason behind that is because of Amazon, because now you have a product, now you have a service, you can just go online, and if you need toilet paper, you just order it. You need rubbing alcohol, you just order it. You need a video game, just order it. It comes up to your door less than 2 days usually.
What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is wrong is the fact that one man was able to catapult this, the success he made from the service into something where he now controls as much wealth effectively as 20% of any given country's population. I don't agree with that. You may agree with that. But
so, why shouldn't he get the money here, and why shouldn't he have that wealth?
Because it's not my belief that he earned all of it.
Who earned it?
Well, okay, first of all, I should say something just in case anybody in the audience might call me on this. Jeff Bezos technically does not actually have as much money as he's made out to, right? Most of his wealth lies in the property holdings of Amazon. So planes, boats, ships, warehouses, that kind of shit. A lot of his wealth is tied up in that. Now, that being said, when it comes to his personal fortune, a lot of that was made by making really savvy business decisions on who got paid when and who to, I'm trying to think of a word that's not a slur because I want to say gypped him out of there, but that's not, you can't say that anymore.
Yeah, you can. You could say that. I don't give a damn.
I can't say it, John.
All right.
You can say it, fine. I can't say it. You know what
gypped,
I mean?
let me stop real quick and then you can go right back. The reason she's saying gypped can't be said is because it used to be a slur for gypsies, because gypsies would gyp you per se. So you can't offend gypsies. Go on. I'm sorry.
Right. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to try to compel your language, but for the sake of my Romani friends, I'm not gonna use the word gyp.
Romani? Oh, Romania. My wife was born in Romania.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah, no. Romani actually specifically refers to the Roma diaspora. But anyway,
Jeff Bezos.
Not to get into all my weird nerd knowledge. Yes, Jeff Bezos. So a lot of his money was made by making really savvy business decisions regarding who would get paid, if they would get paid, who's paid a doc, and what investment to make very calculatedly to get up to the top. Now, a lot of those business decisions involve stepping on the heads of everyone below him, and a lot of them involve not paying his workers, making them work in really obscene conditions for many, many, many years. And this is well documented. You know what I mean?
When you say
trials and tribulations of working at an Amazon warehouse.
When you say making them, what do you mean by making them? He's forcing them to do something?
Well, see, I don't like this thing about force because
what does making them do something mean?
The force is implied, right? So
no.
If they don't work at the, can I finish?
Well, I don't see where the force is implied.
Well, that's what I'm trying to explain.
Okay.
I feel like maybe you're scared to hear this explanation.
No, go ahead.
Am I right?
No, go ahead.
Good. So force is not always, it's not always just having someone grab you by the scruff of the neck and drag you into the factory and smush your face up against the glass and force your hands into the works. That's not always force. What could be just as much force in this situation, in my opinion, is compulsion through usually where these warehouses are set up. They are set up in areas where there's not a lot of other labor going on. And a lot of people look at this as a boon to the community, and that's the way Amazon sells it. Now, the fact of it is, for most people that end up working at that place, becomes the only place they can work, because those warehouses, you know what I mean, they don't exactly have the same effect that a Walmart has on a town, but they have a similar effect with the labor. So suddenly, all these people that didn't have jobs before and were either on the dole or who were working in other businesses, they're now working at the Amazon, and they could choose to get a different job if the work conditions are terrible, which they are, or if their pay is too low, which it is. But what are they going to do in this little tiny town of 4,000 people that suddenly just had a big Amazon warehouse built in it? I've lived in towns where this happened, and I've watched the people say, I just wish I could move. I just wish I could go back to college. I just wish I could X. I just wish I could Y. And the reason they can't is because their employer won't pay them enough to do anything with their lives, including to get a different job. You have to have money to get a different job. You can't just go somewhere else and work somewhere else. It's not that easy. You know, there's no social safety net for people, you know, get them through to the next job.
Okay. So he's making them work there because he opened a big factory in a small town, and that's where all the majority of the jobs are in that town. And since he's not paying them enough, they can't figure out a way to get out of that mess or move out of that town.
Right, and it wouldn't matter if the job wasn't actually so sucky, but like if you read up on what an Amazon warehouse is like on the inside, it's a hot, muggy, terrible, noisy mess where you're expected to be on your feet for 12 hours a day, no breaks, you know?
So he is supposed to pay them enough so they can leave his place and move out of town. It's his obligation to do so.
Want to leave his place.
I'm sorry?
That's the thing. I'm sorry, I was kind of talking over you. I shouldn't have done that. But the thing is that if he paid them like enough,
what's enough?
They wouldn't want to leave. What's enough?
Yeah.
I mean, that depends on the area, right? I'm not some omnipotent God.
Well, that's subjective. That's subjective.
Like, here's a belief that you might mirror in me. I don't believe in a federal minimum wage.
Me neither.
I'm not even sure if I believe in a minimum wage.
No.
But I do believe in trade unions.
Trade union. I'm not really sure what that is, honestly.
See, that saddens me so much.
Tell me what a trade union is.
I will. Instead of bloviating about how sad it makes me, I'll just tell you what it is.
Tell me how sad it makes you afterwards.
Okay. A trade union is a beautiful thing. Whenever you have a bunch of people working together, those people, I'm sure you've seen it yourself.
Oh, like laborers, like electricians and plumbers and stuff?
In my mind, the labor union movement should include everyone, but I'm talking about, yes, electricians and plumbers. I'm talking about people like me who I work in a laundry facility, and as unskilled as it might seem, there's a lot more to like industrial laundry than you'd think, just as an aside. But for everyone, there needs to be some sort of organization, but that's what a trade union is the idea that you and the people who work in your shop, whatever it may be, if you work with other people, you get to know one another, and you get to know one another on a basis other than politics, on a basis other than capitalistic versus communist. And I know I'm soliloquizing a little bit here, but the idea is that you put aside those differences. I'm a communist, you're a capitalist. But if we worked at the same restaurant and you weren't getting paid enough and I weren't getting paid enough and the other cooks weren't getting paid enough and we knew how much the owner was making and he was driving home in a Lamborghini every day, I would stand with you on the line despite our differences. That's a labor union. The idea is that when the owner...
But it's not his fault. How is that his fault?
It's his fault because he's the one who decides to pay the laborers.
The laborers agree. The laborers agree. It's not done by force.
Okay, if you agree to eat a sit-shit sandwich, is it still a sit-shit sandwich?
I wouldn't agree to that.
Okay, so see, this is the problem with capitalism, though. Your solution just kind of comes down to, well, if these corporations can't pay their people enough, then everybody should just leave and not work there then, right? And that doesn't...
Well, that would be the wouldn't that be the communal thing to do?
No, it wouldn't. And
Oh.
That's the thing.
Shouldn't they unite?
Yeah, you know what they should do? They should unite in, like, not just leaving the workplace. They should unite
and hold
together and remaining on the line until those conditions change.
So they shouldn't unite and stop working there. They should unite and try to hold a private business owner's business hostage and not let him hire other people that are willing to work.
Yes, because we are also willing to work, but
you're not. But you're not willing to work. Other people are willing to work
and be treated like shit.
Well, other people are willing to take what you think is crap and do it happily. That's your conundrum right there. You're trying to use force. You're using force to force a private business owner to not be able to run his business because you guys believe in your opinions that he's not treating you right. So instead of just leaving and creating your own business or working somewhere where you're happier, you want to hold the private business owner hostage. That's not fair. He didn't do anything but agree to pay you what you agreed to be paid.
Hey, John, I have a question.
Yeah.
If everyone opens their own business, who's going to work at the businesses?
The people who don't want to open businesses. It takes a certain type of person, and that's the majority.
And you think it should just be okay to pay those people shit?
Well, no, I don't. But that's a subjective term.
How are you going to effectively change on that? Well, how are you going to pay? How are you going? You don't think it's okay, but you're okay with not doing anything to prevent it.
No, I'm not. I never said that. I just not saying you do it. You can't do it by force. That's the bottom line.
So all you can do is ask sweetly for the manager to please give me a raise at some point in the indeterminate.
No, you don't. No, you don't have to be like that. You say, sir, this is why I believe I should make X amount of dollars. How do you feel about that? Well, I feel you should make X. And if we can't meet in the middle, in my head, I'm going to say, all right, it's time for me to start planning for my individual future, because right here, right now, where I'm at isn't good. Now I have to take steps to get where I want to be. It's not up to the owner of the business to get you where you want to be in life. It's up to you.
I never said it was.
Well, it's up to you.
I feel like I'm kind of being strawmanned right now.
I don't know what you mean by that.
A straw man is where you make an argument that's easier to destroy that the other person did not make, so that you can.
What is your argument?
And look like you've actually made a good argument.
Well, what is your argument? I'm sorry if I came off that way. I wasn't trying to. What argument am I trying to circle around?
Business owners have their workers over a fucking barrel right now, and if you don't believe me, then I can only attribute it to the fact that you work for yourself. But I work for other people, man. I got to make my own nut. I have to go to a job every day. And let me tell you something. I work my ass off. And so do my coworkers.
Okay.
And so do the nurses. And so do the other people I work with.
So does everyone that has a job.
Not a shit. No, listen, there's a lot of people that don't work their ass off. Listen, I've worked a lot of jobs. And that's the thing. A union helps the company. You know why? Because when you care about your job, it no longer becomes just a paycheck.
So
when you care about the workers, hold on. When you care about the workers, it no longer becomes a job. That's the point. When you care about who you're working with, it's not just a job.
So a union holding a private business owner's business hostage is helping the company.
That only happens when the company refuses to come to the table. So like,
well, why would they have to? Why would they have to? They're a private business.
Because they have workers, and if they want workers to work for that company, they're going to have to compete more than other companies for that labor.
Okay, so if workers, if they run out of willing participants, I could understand, but you're not letting it happen organically. You're forcing it.
They're forcing us to work there. Like,
no, they're not.
That's an argument again. Yes, okay, I don't want to talk in circles about this all day.
But no one's forcing you.
You believe.
No one's forcing you.
From one direction and not from the other. I believe in force from one direction, not the other. That's our fundamental difference, John.
Why am I not being forced to go work a job?
What?
Why don't I have to go to a job every day?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I don't work a scheduled 40-hour-a-week job anymore like I used to. Why is that? Because I finally got paid enough to be free, or what happened?
I'm assuming it's because YouTube happened, and like there's this giant like accessible platform where people with talented voices and intelligent things to say can, you know, get their word out there. But there isn't room for 1 million YouTubers. There's not room.
Actually, there is
4 million YouTubers.
Yes, there is.
There's not.
Absolutely, there is.
Money for that.
There's over 1 million YouTubers making a living on YouTube. Well over 1 million YouTubers making a living, and I'm barely making a living. Even though I believe I should be making more money. If Nancy Grace is making $5 million a year, I should be making $50 million a year. But I can't say, hey, NBC, Nancy Grace is making $5 million. Her and I are going to get together and we're going to average out our pay so we both get $2.5 million. That will never happen in a million years. Even though that's the right way, supposedly, you know, it's not going to happen. That's not practical.
This is what I mean by a straw man. When did I ever say that two different people from two competing industries should get together and average out their pay? I didn't say that, John.
I'm a media personality. Nancy Grace is a media personality. The only difference is the platform. I'm sorry?
Yeah, that difference makes a big difference because NBC wouldn't just let you upload a big long picture of your dick if you wanted to. Not that YouTube
either will YouTube.
Either, but I'm saying that YouTube allows you to just upload whatever you want within the terms of use. You know what I mean? NBC is a planned, scripted show where you have an expectation of what to see every day, where the content providers are selected from a cast of pre-considered, pre-cast, and prepaid actors and presenters and anchors. That is significantly and profoundly different from YouTube.
I'll give you that one because I've lost my train of thought, honestly. So I'm going to let you restart the conversation. Where were we?
The point we're still on the labor union things, and I want to make I guess central point for that. I don't like the idea of forcing anyone to do anything, right? I'm just as much like the anarcho-communist is the only part of my beliefs that actually stays consistent no matter who I'm debating, because I'm not actually a communist. I'm a primitivist, but that's an entirely different ball of wax. When I'm arguing from this standpoint, I don't like forcing people to do shit. I don't like the idea of it. But the fact of it is that we live in a country now where workers have been bent over a barrel, and people like me, everyday people that, whether because of circumstance or because of lack of personal ability, there's a bunch of people that are not going to end up going to college, who are not going to end up starting their own business, who are not going to end up being able to just move out of their community to a business that would pay them better, that would match their, strengths and suits and skills better. That just isn't going to happen. And our only other option is uniting together as a working people, as people who don't agree politically, who don't often agree socially, but who agree that we all work for a place that should value us. Because without our labor, they have to find someone else. And I know how much it costs to train someone in a new business. It costs roughly $15,000 for the state of Missouri to get a new corrections officer ready for, ready for duty. And I know that because I was a corrections officer for several years. So I know how much it costs to train a new employee. I know how much it costs to get them ready to go onto the floor. And it's not cheap. And our labor is worth something because of that. If nothing else, it's worth the training costs. And if nothing else, it's worth what we get paid. And we deserve to get paid something that doesn't leave us wanting for basic fucking necessities at the end of a 40-hour week. That's my belief. Some people don't think that, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why anyone wouldn't want to advocate for their own social class.
You're saying a lot of...
I'm done. Sorry, I wanted to filibuster for 1 second, but I'm good.
You're saying a lot of subjective things. I would literally have to take notes because 40-hour work week, have enough. You're using stuff like enough and can't meet their necessities, and that would mean we have personal firsthand knowledge of how they handle their expenses. Well, if they smoke cigarettes, if they have smartphones, if they don't have food, but they have the best cable package. You know what I mean? You're not taking any of that into consideration. Again, holding a private business owner hostage because he doesn't want to pay you more than you guys already agreed upon, that's immoral. That's 100% immoral. You don't have to work there. Huh?
Based on what?
Let's say it's me, for instance. I'm putting myself in this. I start a restaurant chain. John's Fat Big Boy, whatever. John's Burger, Johnny Burger, Fresh Burger.
Okie dokie.
Burger Prince. So Burger Prince. It starts off with me and 3 employees. Then we get 5. Then we get 10. Then we remodel. Now we got 20 employees. One of the employees works his way up to manager, buys his own franchise, pays me royalties.
That's all you so far.
Okay, so now we have 500,000 employees. Now all the employees collectively decided that they should get paid more than they agreed to get paid. And if they don't, now they get to shut down everything this guy's created by force and hold his company hostage and won't let him hire people who are willing to do the work you're not.
You're using very loaded, aggressive language to talk about a topic that I find rather innocuous and that saves this country from destitution multiple times over.
Articulate.
Okay, I'll say it in a simpler way. You're using language that suggests that this is a lot more of a violent experience than it is. You're using language like hostage and takeover.
So he can hire other people?
Hold on.
Well, you can't. The thing, Phoebe, you can't say like 6 points because I won't remember by the time you get to the 6th point.
I was literally just responding to the one, but okay.
You said the first thing you said was?
Okay, the first thing I said was that you're using aggressive and loaded language.
By saying that they're holding him hostage.
Yes.
So
that isn't what's happening.
So if you, hold on, let me respond to that. Let me respond to that specific point. If you're not holding his business hostage, he can go hire people to replace you then, right?
I don't believe you can hold a business hostage. I think that's aggressive, loaded language used
to
demonize unions.
All right, hold on. Can the guy hire people to replace you who are willing to do the work you're not willing to do?
Sure, he can hire them. Are they going to get in? No, because me and my comrades are going to be standing the line, not allowing the entry of what's called a scab. If you don't know what a labor union is, I'm guessing you also don't know what a scab is. Would you like me to enlighten you?
I believe just temporary replacement workers, whatever, right?
Yes, a scab is so called because when you are on strike, you are not only standing out front in the gate, to protest. You're not only letting the whole town know these people won't pay us what we're worth. These people won't.
What we want, not what we're worth.
Hold on. Okay, so I'm just not going to be able to finish the point then?
You can.
So it's not just, the point is not just to stand out in front of the street and say, this person won't pay us what we're worth. This person won't pay us what we deserve as workers that are part of this company's structure as to how they make things work. We need more. We are suffering. And that's not the only point. When they're out there, they're also out there to prevent the entry of scabs, because right now the company is bleeding money. The whole time that factory is shut down, because that's the easiest example to use for unionization, right? The minute that factory is shut down, it's just like the business owner's wallet comes out and hundreds start pouring out of it until that business owner has lost enough of their profits to where the company, because it's never just a single owner. Jeff Bezos himself is not going to come to the table for the Amazon, unit.
All right, finish the point.
The point is you're bleeding that company until they come to the table. And when they come to the table, everyone gets back to work. And it's all fine and dandy. And this time, they're getting paid what they have to be paid as members of a workforce that needs to live and that needs to be able to get to work safely and that needs to be able to get enough sleep every night to come into work and do their job well. And things go on smoothly. Smoother, in fact, than they did before.
Okay.
Now you have a union shop.
See, Phoebe, the issue is I asked one simple question and you went on for like 2.5 minutes. Can If you're not holding this business hostage and you're not going to physically prevent him from hiring work, how can he hire people that are willing to do the job you're not willing to do? Yes or no?
Do you know what hiring means?
Is that a yes or a no?
I'm not gonna okay.
Can the owner hire people?
This question.
Can the owner bring in people?
Why are you not letting my answer stand as it was?
Your answer was 2.5 minutes long, and you touched on 10 different things.
Am I too right on this? Am I too close to home? Is it getting
Phoebe, I'm trying to ask you specific questions so we can narrow down something, and you seem to be getting offended.
I'm trying to answer in a specific way, but
you're not, though. You're going on and on.
Engaged in this tactic of pushing it to the other side.
No, you're not being specific at all. You're drawing on and on and on. I'm asking you very plain, simple questions. When you guys decided collectively to shut this guy's business down, is he allowed to bring in people to do the job you're not willing to do?
I will answer no, but I will also say that question is based on an entirely.
All right. Can I ask my next question now? So no,
sure.
he's not allowed. If he tries to hire people who are willing and voluntarily willing to do the work, what will happen to him or them?
What will happen to him?
Or them?
Not a goddamn thing. What will happen to the workers?
Yeah.
Here's what happens when a scab shows up to a union line.
Mm-hmm.
First, the scab is educated about the principles of labor. They explain, I understand that you need a job and that you're looking for work and that, you went down to the temp agency and they told you this is where you're working today, but you're not working today. No one else is working today either in this shop. This is a union shop and we're on a strike and we are engaged in direct action to improve our conditions as laborers. If that scab refuses to turn around, I'm not some big tough girl. I'm not an advocate for violence, but I've just seen it happen, man. I've seen it happen. I've seen it play out. Tire irons come out, and that little scab's car gets fucked all the way up. And the next scab that rolls up is less likely to get out of his car and argue.
Now, are you agreeing with that activity?
You just heard me say that I don't advocate for violence. Don't try to ask another question.
I apologize then. I apologize. So literally through violence and force, the collective has shut down a guy's dream, and you're holding his company.
Shut down a guy's dream? Are you serious?
Well, my Burger Prince dream turned into 500,000 workers, and now you're saying I can't run my restaurants, and people can't voluntarily come to run my restaurants for me. So you're literally
pay your workers so little.
I'm sorry?
I would ask you why you want to pay your workers so little and treat them so badly that they want to strike.
That's a subjective term. How come the people who are willing to replace you don't feel that way?
They do feel that way.
Then why are they willing to work?
Because they're disadvantaged. Do you know what a scab usually is? It's usually a undocumented Hispanic worker or a migrant worker.
Well, let's say they're legal.
Not someone from the community.
Well, let's say they're Americans. What would be the issue then?
What would be the issue then? The same issue. A scab interferes with the movement, with the labor movement. A scab interferes with the ability of unionized laborers to strike.
Right. And then the union is preventing a guy from exercising his rights to business and private property. Why does his rights get destroyed? Because him and all his crony capitalist friends don't. It's not like the workers. The workers don't have solidarity, but owners. I don't have crony capitalist friends. I'm Burger Prince. I'm Burger Prince.
Of course you don't. Of course you are. Anyway.
No, seriously. Let's use the example of my Burger Prince franchise. I'm not in bed with any cronies. I just started a burger joint and it got really big. Now I'm being held hostage because my workers think they should get paid more than they agreed to be paid and won't let me replace them. How do you not see the immorality there? Do you believe that's immoral?
Okay, number one, I don't frankly fucking care about anyone's moral proclivities, right? I'm not an objectivist and I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in good and evil. I don't believe in that shit. What I believe is in better outcomes. I believe, if you want to know the axiom on which I believe, based on my beliefs, I believe in the continued well-being of every human being and the allowance of them to have their basic necessities met. Food, water, shelter, etc.
By force?
I don't care about if it comes by force. That's not preferable. If it comes by the force of people standing out in front of a union line and saying, "Hey, you don't get to make money until you come to the table,"
cracking some skulls, damaging some property.
Yeah, how come it's okay when the cops do that?
It's not.
Okay when
it's not okay when the cops do it, and I'm the one that knows that firsthand.
Of course, that's what I don't get about you. That's what I don't get about you.
So you're saying that unions should because cops. You're saying because cops are bad and beat people, that union people should be able to be bad and beat people and destroy property.
No, I'm saying that there's a false dichotomy presented when capitalists talk about communism. They talk about communism and labor unions as if they're violent thugs out on the beat looking for whoever to kill.
You just told me that.
Often, like they're just.
Well, you just told me that. You just told me that they will beat them with tire irons and destroy their property if they attempt to engage in voluntary work.
I didn't say that would happen. I said I've seen it happen.
Okay. So there's a precedent for it.
Yeah, totally. There's also a precedent for owners literally gassing their employees. There's also a precedent for business owners creating company towns in which you weren't allowed to move out, despite the fact that slavery was illegal. There's also precedent of companies buying up massive tracts of land to use for solar collectors that kill birds and any other wildlife that gets trapped in it.
Who's forcing you to work for them?
Really bad, horrible shit.
Who's forcing you to work for those companies?
I almost want to just make up a silly religious argument so you'll stop asking the stupid.
It's not a stupid question. The bottom line is, I believe in nonviolence and voluntarism. You claim to believe in that.
Are you an anarcho-capitalist?
I'm a constitutionalist. So,
okay.
So the bottom line comes down to one side of the argument requires force. The other side does not.
That's not the case at all.
Absolutely.
One side, I need you to just
listen. I'm listening.
I don't know what I need. I don't know what the right combination of words here is to make someone who's ardently decided that they are going to take whatever the business leaders shove at them because they don't believe that they have the right to challenge them.
Never said that. I don't know
how to convince you that you are worth more than what a business owner
I've challenged all of my employers. You know what they tell me? Ha ha. So you know what I did? Ha ha. I left. And I did my own thing.
Yeah. I'm glad you had the privilege to leave, man.
Oh, here it is. What privilege? How was I privileged exactly? You know me?
What is your privilege? Do I know you?
Yeah.
No, but I can tell a lot of things right now. Number one.
Let's hear it.
Number one, you've got a successful YouTube channel. Number two.
It's not that successful, so you're. I'm sorry. Whoa. Let's do it point by point. It's not that successful, and I barely make any money. So you're off on your first point.
I know that's not true. Listen, I work with a podcast that has about 50,000 subs on one channel, about 50,000 on another.
Right.
And the other guy's subs don't really count.
Okay, Phoebe. Phoebe.
Hold on. Can I finish?
Well, look. You just said you know that's not true. So you have personal firsthand knowledge of the analytics of my YouTube channel.
I don't have personal firsthand.
So you don't know that then. So you don't know then.
I don't know for a fact. I don't know for all fact, but what I do know.
You know what assuming does, right?
That if you're barely making any money, you're making some pretty bad business decisions. Because I know podcasts with 100,000 less.
It's not bad business decision. Phoebe, I don't know if you know how YouTube works. They throttle certain people up and they shadow ban others. And if they don't like your message, they bury you in the corner. It has nothing to do with subscribers.
All your videos pushed to the front for the last few months.
My videos, no, and not only that, almost every video I put out, they demonetize and they won't tell me why. So again, you're assuming and you're talking specifics that you don't know what you're talking about. Your first point is completely off base. So let's go to your second point about how I'm privileged.
You opened up 3 restaurants, right?
Correct.
In your real life?
With my own money.
With your own, well, your own money. So here's the thing. The problem with the internet is that I don't know you. I could go through and assume all of these things.
Right.
I can literally just say, nope, I pulled myself up on my bootstrap. The fact that it could be that you were on the dole for 10 fucking years and you wouldn't tell me because you have an advantage in line.
What is dole? What do you mean by on the dole?
Your individual situation.
What does on the dole mean?
It's a phrase that means on welfare. It's a phrase that means on welfare.
I've never, ever, outside of these stimulus checks that I didn't ask for, I've never taken public assistance.
Okay,
My mom does, though.
How do I prove that?
How do you prove it? You mean, other than believing me that I'm an honest guy because you have no other reason to? I mean, I'm not going to, you can come and look through my records if you really need to, if you want to make that trip, because I'm willing to back up what I say. I have no problem with it. So again, you assuming I'm privileged is because of the color of my skin or what else? Because I have a successful YouTube channel that happened by accident. One video exploded my channel. That's it. Before the first 6 or 7 years of my channel, I was making $13.25 a month. So I am self-made.
I know you're individual. Like, okay, whatever. So
whatever. You can't just dismiss everything I say with whatever. You got to do better than that.
I didn't dismiss everything you said. I'm trying to move on to the next point.
Go ahead.
I'm almost done with this conversation because you're just trying to stonewall me every time I say something.
I've let you carry on for a good while, I'd say.
Coming on, but you seem scared to hear my point. You seem
I'm not
terrified to actually listen to what I'm saying.
Phoebe,
you seem really scared for these points to come out.
You
act like you're terrified.
Play the video back, and I promise you have the majority of the speaking time.
Hopefully, because this is literally only a 2-hour section, and you have an entire YouTube channel in which you can try to debate whatever point I make. So yeah, I think I should probably have the balance of the speaking time.
And I've given it to you.
Just looking at it, purely by fucking statistics.
I've given it to you.
Great, I'm glad.
Okay. Next point. So, what other privileges do I have?
What other privileges do you have? See, again, we come back to the same thing. I don't know you. I can't tell you. I can tell you that you're white. I can tell you that you look an awful lot like a cop. I can tell you both of those things.
Which privileges do you assume that I have? That I'm white? What makes you think I'm white?
What makes it? Okay, let me rephrase that. You're white presenting. I don't know if you're
white presenting. What does that mean?
You are. I don't know if I'm using the right phrase.
That sounds like a racial slur.
Or white appearing. Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It really does.
It isn't.
It's not?
I'm glad it sounds like that, but
so I'm white presenting. Can you explain that for the listening audience here?
Okay. Whenever I say that, I mean that when you look at someone, you usually have a initial response in your head, a completely innocuous one, hopefully, that says, oh, that's, an Italian person, that's a white person, that's, a French person, that's a black person, that's an Indian person, that's a Native American person.
I don't do that unless they have a heavy accent.
Yeah, of course you do.
Unless they have a heavy accent from Europe, what do I care what they look like?
Sure. Yeah, no one, you're the one person on earth that, just looks at everyone and you just don't see color, right?
If it's brought up in a conversation, I worked with a guy at the casino and I told some customer, you want someone tall, dark, and handsome? And another guy says, you're talking about me, I think. And I finally, after working with him for months, I said, you're a black guy? I didn't even know the guy was black. I don't give a crap about your color of your skin. It means nothing. It's literally melanin. Most people think I'm Hispanic presenting.
Okay, I mean, listen, I do agree with you that race shouldn't mean as much as it does.
No, it shouldn't mean anything. It means nothing.
It shouldn't.
It doesn't.
But it does.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you also don't believe that any racism is committed against black people in this day and age. This is an aside. I don't want to get into the whole
racism is committed against every race every day, all around the world.
So what would you say to the people who say that racism is power plus privilege?
What would I say to the people who what?
Have you ever heard the phrase racism is power plus privilege?
Power plus privilege. Racism is power plus privilege. Well, logically, that doesn't make any sense because you don't have to have any power to be a racist. So privilege is another subjective term used by woke scolding bigots. So go on to your next point. since I don't
Yeah,
want to talk about race. I'm not into the race
Yeah.
thing. So let's go on to the next point of how I'm privileged.
You have some pretty unpopular takes these days. It's a good thing you don't talk about the race thing.
I do? Yeah, because talking about the race thing constantly just basically makes you the racist. I don't think about it. Doesn't matter to me. Again, it's melanin in your skin. It means nothing. It's what's between your ears that means everything. So again, I mean, point by point here, you're doing great. What else about me is privileged, and what else?
I'm just gonna note as an aside to the audience, I don't agree that race just comes down to melanin. There's more complex things than that. Anyway,
it's hatred for literally a color.
Okay, buddy.
What is it? If it,
so I would say
are you talking about racism or bigotry? Because those are two different things.
Racism is a form of bigotry, bro. Like,
right.
Can we not get in this? I would rather just like debate the communism thing with you. If you want to do a BLM debate later on, we can totally do that. I'm a Black Lives Matter activist, but like, I'd rather just debate the merits of communism here, honestly.
Well, I mean,
the privilege thing.
I didn't bring up the race thing, so go ahead.
Anyway, so what gender are you?
Which gender do you think I am?
I don't know.
Feel free to assume.
Non-binary.
Thank you. I'll go with that.
Okay, so you say them pronouns?
I'm sorry?
So when your mom calls up, well, I shouldn't use your mom. That's a bad example. When a cousin is talking to you, or about you, rather, do they say, yeah, they were talking to that Phoebe girl online. I think she's a communist, but they were doing pretty good in that debate. Is that how they talk about you? Or do they say he, him, his?
How do people address my gender?
Yeah, how do people what do people like call you in your everyday life? Like
John.
And are you okay with that?
John or Filax?
I will say this much. You are doing excellently at skirting around the gender question. So
what do you mean? Do they call like a telemarketer will say Mr. John Filax? Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Thank you.
So what about it?
So that means when people in your everyday life like come up to you and they think about you, they probably assume that you're male. They probably assume that you're a dude.
People that I know are strangers.
I mean, I don't know you in your real life. Maybe in your real life you like wear really frilly dresses and wear like a really cute wig. I don't know.
People in my real life,
people address you as a male.
People in my real life know my gender. Strangers probably assume that I'm a male. So what about it?
Okay. Well, you asked for another example of what privilege you may have, and I'm just giving that as an example.
What is it?
Again.
What's the privilege?
Okay, well, it's a mere, like, you want me to get into the whole complex of it?
No, I just want simple answers. I don't want a novel. You got to be more precise.
You don't get simple answers from me. I'm not a conservative. I don't deal in simple. I don't deal in platitudes.
Well, I don't really deal in. I can't deal in abstract because abstract is just subjective nonsense. You can't prove anything. You don't have any personal firsthand knowledge. Nothing is concrete. It's all theoretical, and you can't.
That's actually true about reality, not just what I'm saying.
Well, there's actually facts. There's things. There's things that are factual that you can't change no matter what.
Like what?
Dirt is dirt. Air is air.
Okay, but if you take dirt and you purify it and you like press it down real hard, doesn't it become clay?
If you process it, I didn't say anything about that.
Actually, here's a better example. Dirt is, dirt to one person, it's habitat to a worm. It's landfill for a construction worker. Nothing is objective.
Nothing is objective.
No, nothing is objective.
So how about math?
Math?
Yeah.
Math is a what's the word I'm looking for? Math is a theoretical practice of arranging numbers that humans have created based off of repeating patterns in the natural world. But yes, it is subjective. The fact that math laws get updated and changed all the time proves that.
So will 2 + 2 ever get updated?
See, 2 2 plus 2 has already got other answers. See, because
It does.
I don't remember what the math law is. Yeah, of course. Let me explain. I don't remember what the math law is, but there's some intrinsic there's some intrinsic quality of numbers where if you present something as just a simple integer with no, I can't think of the word, but like 2.5 or whatever, if you present something as just a simple integer, numbers can hide, in the dots after that, basically, is the idea behind how 2 plus 2 can actually equal 5. But the point is that I don't know if 2 plus 2 on its own will ever get updated to mean something else, but I am saying that when it comes to really complex math theory, the understood nature of how the world works changes all the time.
Theory.
Why are we talking about math, man? Why are we talking?
Because you're saying nothing. You're basically saying nothing is real, and I'm trying to show you concrete examples.
Is real. Why do you think it is?
What?
Because some humans wrote it down in a
What,
book?
math?
Are you serious?
Math?
That makes something real? Is Harry Potter real? Why is math real, bro?
Why is math real?
Yeah.
Let's see. So, in the history of time, math is used in one way or another. People would count.
How was it used after humans? How was it used before humans, rather?
Before humans, nature actually follows a mathematical pattern.
Okay, where can I read that at? Where can I read the formulas?
There's a documentary called The Decoder or something. It's a 4-part series. He goes through it. He goes through it in depth, and he's a master. Can I finish now? He goes through it. Can I finish my point? The gentleman is a master mathematician who's traveled the world and documented what he's found, and it makes perfect sense if you watch it. Now, what were you saying?
Okay, I find documentaries interesting. I find film interesting, but it doesn't make for objective reality.
It is. Well, he shows very objectively how certain polygons and shapes and things happen organically throughout nature because they are the best shape to accomplish the job that, like the honeybees trying to accomplish it. And it goes on and on and on from there. And there's just certain patterns that form by certain events, and they always take the same shape and form. There's patterns, and from there you've developed math. And then one guy has 5 pineapples and he wants to buy 5 more, and he needs to know how many pineapples he has. That's where he has 10 pineapples. It's very objective, very, very objective.
I find it interesting that this debate was supposed to be about the merits of communism versus capitalism.
Oh, well, we've gone all over the place.
The subjective nature of reality.
I mean, well, we've gone all over the place. There's nothing wrong with that. So basically,
no, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I'm sitting here trying to defend nihilism, and it's like, I don't know. It just feels a little 2012 YouTube atheist to me, I guess.
YouTube atheist. I mean, we've gone through. You said, listen, let's do a short recap, and let's try to keep our answers, each of us, 30 seconds each. So you want to go first or me?
You go first.
All right. So if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong when my time is up. If you fall on hard times, the landlord should have to take the hit for as long as you need to stay at his private property. If you as a collective group decide that Burger Prince isn't paying what you believe is unfair wages and work environment, then you believe that by force, well, not by force, but that people can collectively not let other people take the jobs that they're willing to do, and you've seen people get beat and their skulls cracked over it. You're saying basically nothing can be objective, and I'm privileged because I'm a male, because people assume I'm a male, and you assume that I'm white, and you assume that I have a YouTube and make a lot of money. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I think it's pretty rich that you're going to get at me for making a bunch of points and not being able to respond to any of them when you're going to literally gish gallop me by saying all of that. I don't even remember what the first thing you said was now, so could you please repeat that? I'm going to stop the balance of my time now. I'm actually using a stopwatch, by the way.
What's the question?
What was the first thing you said? You fucking soliloquized so long, I don't remember.
I don't remember. Let me see.
about another thing.
Oh,
about
landlord,
expulsion,
the landlord, the landlord.
landlord.
If you fall on hard times, the landlord should have to take the hit for as long as you need to stay there. And even though you agreed to stay there under contract and you're in breach of your word and your agreement, you should still be allowed to stay there.
Okay. May I begin my time? Okay, I'm going to take that silence as a yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said, may I begin my time?
Of course,
Sorry.
go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't believe in the concept of landlords. I believe landlords serve primarily as leeches to take away the earnings of the working man and put it towards other uses that the landlord would rather. I think that landlords exist primarily as an intermediary between working people and the actual places they live. And I believe that if they were to be done away with, life would improve as a result. I relinquish the balance of my time.
Landlords aren't forcing anybody to do anything against their will. They are entered into a voluntary agreement. No one's being held there by force until you breach the agreement and don't hold up your end of the bargain. Now you're on someone else's private property. Whether you believe they should own property or not, the reality of the situation is you're the one in breach. You're the one who can't hold up your end of the bargain.
May I begin my time?
Sure.
Again, I don't believe landlords should exist. I don't care if someone's in a breach of contract with their landlord. I believe in personal contracts. I believe that if you shake hands with another person, that you should honor your word. And I believe that if you make a promise to another person online, such as we did to set this up, that you should follow your word. That being said, when it comes to the contract between a landowner and between the tenants that he requires to make income off of that land, I do not believe that there should be an intermediary there. And that's all my time.
You don't believe landlords should exist. Understand.
Not at all.
I got it. But they do exist. And if you don't like them, you don't have to live somewhere where there is a landlord. You can mortgage your own home and then the bank becomes your landlord essentially. Or you can go to another landlord who you feel is better, more like-minded. Go ahead.
Again, it's not about a more like-minded landlord, and most people actually cannot afford a mortgage. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. It's not that most people can't afford a mortgage. It's that most banks nowadays will not give you a mortgage unless you've got, a certain amount of money in the bank and a certain amount of money saved up, a certain amount of money that you make every month. So, you usually end up paying way more for an apartment than you would actually for a mortgaged house. I think that needs to change. Just to put that out there, it should be easier to buy houses and less, we shouldn't be as restricted to rent.
I 100% agree with you that the banks have screwed us far more than any capitalist because the banks aren't really capitalists. We can agree on that, right?
No, I would not agree. I think banks are the perpetuators and perpetrators of capitalism.
I think the exact opposite. And I thought we would agree on that because in 1913, the Federal Reserve System was created. In 1914, what you said, the income tax was created. The Federal Reserve is a private-owned bank who controls the money supply and the interest rates and all that. So they're not government. Go ahead.
How do you figure?
The Federal Reserve is not a government agency. Either it's as much government as Federal Express. That's not a government bank. The government can't control what it does. It has barely any control over it other than the president gets to nominate the head of the Federal Reserve from a pre-selected pool of bankers that a group of bankers put in front of him.
Okay. May I respond?
Sure.
I'd like to read from federalreserve.gov.
Go ahead.
The Federal Reserve System is not, quote, owned, unquote, by anyone. The Federal Reserve was created in 1913 by the Federal Reserve Act to serve as the nation's central bank. The Board of Governors in Washington, D.C. is an agent of the federal government and reports to and is directly accountable to the Congress. So you are not, in fact, correct, and the Federal Reserve is not, in fact, a privately held bank. Can we move on to the next point, please?
So what control does Congress have over the Federal Reserve?
I would have to read more into the Federal Reserve, wouldn't I?
That would be zero.
I was able to just Google it and find out that the Board of Governors basically controls the Fed and reports directly to Congress. So
when's the last time?
More power than you're letting on.
No, hold on. So when's the last time the Federal Reserve was audited by the government?
Let me look it up.
Never. Why is that? There's also a video.
I'm trying to actually prove that you're.
There's also go ahead and take your time. There's also a video of a guy who was one of the big dogs at the Fed, and he went right on record and said government has no control over us. They can't make policy. They can't do this. They can't do that. We basically have a blank check to run the economy the way we want. I wish I could look that up right now, but I can't. Maybe someone could find that for me because it's an old video.
Could I respond now?
Sure.
Here's another reading from federalreserve.gov. Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Does the Federal Reserve ever get audited? Yes. The Board of Governors, the 12 Federal Reserve banks, and the Federal Reserve System as a whole are all subjected to several levels of audit and review. The Government Accountability Office, the GAO, conducts numerous reviews of Federal Reserve activities every year. The board's financial statements and its compliance with laws and regulations affecting those statements are audited annually by an outside auditor retained by the independent officer of the Inspector General. The results of this independent auditor released to Congress and the public. So I could keep reading, but this is a really long article.
No, that's okay. So just get to the point.
It already proves that the Federal Reserve is
right.
Audited,
so just get to the.
Move on to a different point.
Let's just get to the point where can I find this audit and see all these numbers, because I sure haven't found it in about 20 years.
Board's financial statements. Let's see.
How much money is in the bank?
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna link it to you because these actually are available to the public. And,
Good.
And you should be so thankful to me because I actually found these.
I am thankful, and I'll also show you the links I'm talking about.
But anyway, my point is, like the whole genesis of the conversation was you implying that the Fed is some socialist organization. Here's the thing. You have to have money to have capitalism. You have to. There's no capitalism without money.
Right.
Otherwise,
constitutional money.
About a barter economy, not a capitalist economy.
Constitutional money.
What do you mean, Colin? What does that mean? What does
that means gold and silver.
Mean? That's a phrase. What?
Gold and silver? Precious metals.
Are you serious, bro? The gold standard?
Yeah, the gold. What's wrong with the gold standard? Because you can't spend more money than you have. That's the issue with the gold standard, right? How can you say banks create money out of thin air? They only have to have 1/10 of what they loan out, and at any given time, if there was a run on the banks, they don't have the money to cover what they've loaned out. That is not in any shape or form a capitalist free market. Anything. That's pure crony. That's the crony capitalism that you guys talk about. That is not capitalism in the righteous form.
Yeah, capitalism in its righteous form is a unicorn talked about by ANCAP so that they can, basically so that they can have faux libertarian ideas about the way government should work while actually never engaging in any political activism. I don't believe in free market economics because what you're basically talking about is you're talking about me as an American looking around at all these companies that have destroyed this fucking place. Enron, PG&E, Ameren, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and you're telling me that I should let those dogs completely off the chain?
What dogs?
The dogs of the PG. Were you not listening?
No, I'm not saying that at all. If they're hurting somebody,
we should have a free market unrestricted by government force. What's to prevent?
Well, you still have to be with you still can't endanger the public and break laws.
Okay, but that's government at the end of a gun, isn't it? How are you actually gonna stand in front of someone?
Wait a second. Hold on. I don't think you understand what I'm getting at. When I say government through the barrel of a gun, I mean if you're not bothering anybody, you're not trespassing, you haven't damaged any personal property, then you should be able to live your life freely as an American. Now, if you violate somebody, hold on, let me finish real quick. If you violate somebody else's property, blah, 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 then yes, force has to be used against you to punish you for your crime against another person. That's not government through the barrel of a gun. That's totally different. Government through the barrel of a gun is you pay income tax or we come with a SWAT team and ruin everything you've ever worked for.
See, that's the thing. That's why I say faux libertarian.
What do you mean faux?
About the libertarian shit. Like
I'm not a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian. Never claimed to be.
I know. I could tell. I could tell. No, I'm attributing that label to you. I'm not saying you took it onto yourself. I'm calling you that.
I'm not though.
Okay, I understand that you don't think you are.
Go on.
But I fucking frankly don't even remember where we were. I don't know. I honestly got to get going, so I'm just gonna finish up with this.
Hey, let me tell you something, Phoebe. I appreciate you. You know that.
I appreciate you too, John. I know it gets vitriolic in these conversations, but
I think your ideas suck. But you think my ideas suck, right?
I don't think, like, let me be honest with something, John.
Go ahead.
Little moment of vulnerability for you.
Sure.
I don't think I presented my ideas that well, and that hurts to me.
We could do it again.
To know that your audience is misgendering me. It hurts to know that
misgendering you
probably just thinks I'm an idiot. Yeah, I saw he, him, his so much in the chat that I frankly stopped looking at it. You know,
I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pay any attention to it in these sorts of discussions because I don't, But the central point I'm making is not, oh boo-hoo, I got misgendered. I don't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't personally affect me. I can let it roll off my back, but like, it affects me that I didn't present my point that well. You know what I mean? I kind of wanted to come on here, and I honestly didn't even want to say a lot of the shit that we got into. Like, I have this idea in my head that at some point, me and the people that I work with, that I know, will go to our bosses and we'll say, listen, I understand that you have your own life and stuff that you need to get done, but we're dying, we're bleeding out all over. Everyone is. And if we can join together, I want to be able to tell my bosses, listen, I'm going to be striking, and that's just the way it is. And it's nothing against you, but all of the people that I work with need more than we're getting from our 40 hours here. We need more, and it's killing us to have 3-4 jobs at a time. It's killing us.
So let me ask this, Phoebe.
I
get what you're saying. Let me ask this. What if the owner said, okay, there's 100 of you now. You guys want, let's say a $4 an hour pay raise so you can meet all your needs at home. So now I have to let 20 people go in order for the other 80 to get that money, because technically in the budget, that's where we're at. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens. Like,
what do we do about those 20 people, though?
Here's the thing. If you can just let 20 people, like, off your staffing roles, they probably weren't that important anyway.
And if you
I read a statistic once that said, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I read a statistic once that the average working person, and I'm sure this isn't true for everyone, because, like, if you're a YouTuber, then basically your whole day is work. You know what I mean? If you're a content creator, everything you do goes towards that. But most people that have, like, office jobs, that kind of shit, the average worker only spends about 3 hours a day doing actual work. I can't quote that statistic per source, but it's something I've read a lot about. That but the point is, like, I don't know, if they have to lose those 20 people, it's okay. In a culture where there's unionization, that's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? In a culture where there's unionization, those 20 workers can take those skills that they have and go to another place in the community, build up solidarity and rapport with the coworkers that they have, and then when it comes time for them to do direct action, then they're included in it. The idea is not to gouge the business owner. The idea is that the business owner has been allowed to start gouging the working person. And, the idea right now that we operate on is that we bake the pizza and they eat it. And that's wrong. We bake the pizza, we get our slice. You might get 4 extra slices than any of us. I'm still okay with that, bro. I'm totally okay with there being millionaires. I'm okay with there being a couple billionaires around. I just don't think that it should be at the expense of the working man. And right now, it is at the expense of the working man, woman, and person. It's at the expense of them. We're dying out here.
Okay.
Sorry, I know that was a rant, but
it's all good. Phoebe Ophelia is your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah. Yep. Actually, it's just Phoebe Opie.
Phoebe Opie.
Like,
the link is in the description, guys. Remember, she's the first person knowingly knowing who I am, who voluntarily debated me when the cops won't come on, politicians won't come on and defend their ideas. Even though I disagree with her, she still defended her ideas. She still believes in what she believes in. And we're, you know, it was a good conversation.
I don't think any of us got too vitriolic.
Nah, I mean, you're going to have your little flare-ups, but was I being okay with you for the most part?
Yeah. I mean, there's a few times when I registered kind of a bad attitude, but to be fair, in a debate setting, I employ a lot of that. I use a lot of very impassioned language and very, you know, what can come off as anger. You know what I mean?
It's all good.
So I didn't take any of it personally or anything like that.
Ditto. Listen, we could do this again, but it's not going to be 2 hours. We could pick one subject and do minute timers. One subject, we'll put each other on a minute timer. We'll do something nice and concise, you know, because I didn't really prepare all that much either.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with debating communism, if I'm honest with you, man. Like, the problem with debating it is that you brought up something, and I honestly started to make fun of you for it, and then I realized that, like, no, that would be wrong, because, like, you kept bringing up that I needed to simplify things, and like I said, at first I was resistant to that, and then I realized, like, this is actually a really complicated subject.
Absolutely.
It's not one of those things that you can just tell someone about. It's like that. If you want me, another little bit of a moment of vulnerability from me, it's like, that's what I envy most about conservatives, is that when a conservative goes up to another conservative, it's so easy to talk about their ideas. And I'm not saying you're one, but if it's interesting to another's interest, it's the same way. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to attribute that to you, though. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to put no label on you now. I'm trying to be more friendly than I was in our
I'm
debate.
uber conservative.
So okay. So, like, then you'd probably, you know, you've got that kind of attachment to capitalism, that kind of idea of money, and, you know, you've got kind of that backing of knowledge.
I've been opening and closing businesses since I was 17 years old. I've probably had over 30 businesses, and the 27 of them probably failed. And I love it. Failing means you tried. The only people who don't fail are the ones that don't try. And I've always found a way to rebound, and the human spirit perseveres for the most part. Don't get me wrong, some people are down on their luck, but at the same time, you got to admit that a lot of people are their own worst enemy.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that. You know, it's just the people who are their own worst enemy, I still think that they're worth something. I still think that
absolutely.
They add you know?
And I'm not against charity, and I'm not against doing the right thing. I'm just against making it happen by force. And that's, we should close it right there soon, very soon. Closing statement.
Yeah, closing statement. And yeah, this will be it, and then we can, you know, say our goodbyes, and I'll go, and I got to get to work soon anyway.
I know.
Imagine a world where not only you as a YouTuber and as a businessman get to do your business, but where anytime you see one of your workers, they tip their hat and they thank you for how well you treat them. And what if you lived in a world where when you got home at the end of the day, you went to a house that was in completely full repair at no expense of your own, because the neighborhood handyman has just come by and, you know, finished repairing the roof or whatever. And what if when you drive to work, you drive on a road that's been maintained so well for so many years that it doesn't even have potholes anymore, that it doesn't even have signs flipped over and shit all in the road? That's the kind of world I dream about at night when I think of my ideas and bringing them to the forefront. And imagine a world where you never have to worry about calling the cops to get someone off your property because they've got no incentive to trespass. Imagine a world where you never have to worry about calling the cops on a robber.
There's still incentives, but there's still incentives, Phoebe. You're leaving out human nature.
I don't believe in human. Like, okay, I don't want to get into this.
Let me say this real quick.
Yeah, okay.
There would be no incentive to steal, correct? I get that. But
there would be like the human incentive. There's some people that are just kleptomaniacs.
not only that,
you know.
forget that part. What about rapists?
Well, I mean, okay, I'm just talking about economic crime, man.
Okay.
As far as the rape thing, I would rather us like have another separate discussion
All
about
right.
that.
Go on.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about all crime.
Okay.
I'm just saying imagine a world where people's economic needs are met so well by one another, not the government. Fuck the government. I don't want no government in my shit. I don't like cops. I don't like statesmen. I don't like politicians. And I particularly and especially dislike state houses. I don't want any of that. I do want a world, though, where communities get together and work towards the common good of one another, and where bosses take care of their people, and where innovators have an environment where they are allowed not only to innovate, but to innovate to new and unique expanses that have never been seen before and are unhindered by the cost of education or by the cost of living, that are unleashed. Imagine the fucking outburst. I'll end it with this. Imagine the outburst of human creativity that would come from everyone being only as tethered as they wish to be to what they do for a living. That's the world I want.
Okay, which sounds good, but I honestly believe that would make society decline. But what you're saying, yes, and I can make the example of averaging all the students' grades and blah blah blah. You've heard it before. What you're talking about sounds like a lot like the Phoenix Project. Do you know about the Phoenix Project?
The Phoenix Project, was that? Was that by Jacques Cousteau?
I don't know if it was Jacques Cousteau, but it was
Jacques Cousteau.
There was a video on YouTube back in the day called Zeitgeist Addendum. There was Zeitgeist, and then there's Zeitgeist Part 2, the Addendum. And
are you talking about the Venus Project?
Is it the Venus or Phoenix?
I'm pretty sure it's the Venus Project, and I was thinking of Jacques Fresco. And yes, okay, I'll be honest. I have not looked into the Venus Project quite as much, but now that you've recommended it to me, as well as not recommended, but now that you've put the thought in my head, as well as one of the other guys I watch on YouTube, his name's Ideology. Go listen to his shit.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I will definitely check that out, because that's now two people that I kind of look up to telling me, hey, there's this project that sounds kind of like what you're talking about. So I definitely want to look into it.
It's a great idea. They make these giant circular cities, and they're very strategically, mathematically set up to have perfect transportation. Only 3% of the population will have to work to do what you're saying, maintain and blah blah blah. And they would use super updated technologies to clean clothes like radio waves and etc. But again, let me thank you, because I know you have to go to work. I'm sure this was a great debate, in my opinion. Even though we disagree, we could do it again sometime with a timer, 1 minute each, and we'll do like 20 minutes, half hour, get our points across. And this has been good, and I appreciate it. Everyone go to Phoebe Ophi's channel, subscribe to her, for having the intestinal fortitude to come and do this blindly with a brash asshole like me. How's that?
The intestinal fortitude. I'm gonna keep using that phrase now, because it's so apt.
The reason I say that is because I don't want to say she has the balls, and I don't want to say she has the vagina. She has the vagina to come on here with some brash asshole.
Yeah, she's got the ovaries to come on and make some brash asshole for sure.
Hey.
I don't even think you're that brash though, man.
Hey.
Just,
You know Betty White, right?
Huh?
You know who Betty White is, right?
Betty White? Oh, that old grandma who's been alive since like the Great Depression? Hell yeah.
Yeah, she was on the Golden Girls, and one of her greatest jokes is she goes, I don't know why everyone says they should grow a pair of balls. They should be telling them to grow a vagina, because that thing can take a beating.
It's true. It's true. I used to have all these anatomy books as a kid, and I was so cringed out, like looking at just the examples of childbirth. I'm like, that could fit through that.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
They're very durable. I've tested a couple out.
Very durable. They should look into whatever material that like vaginas are made of for like parachute sales and shit. Like imagine that, because like that's some strong material down there to take, going from like the size of a pinhead to like the size of a baby head, I guess.
It is a good place to be sometimes, especially in the morning. Anyway, thank you, Phoebe.
Yes. You're welcome. Thank you, John.
Have a good day, and I appreciate you coming on. I really do.
Peace the fuck out, man. Bye.
Call me anytime you want.
For sure.
See you. Well then, how about that? Let me go back and read all the comments now. Not. It basically comes down to my opinion, because the thing she's saying is, it's good, and it would be great if, as communities, and some communities do it, and you can do it. The problem is assembling. You can't assemble enough people on a regular basis to get the things done that she's talking about. And to get lots of people on the same page, especially in this climate with so much misinfo mixed in with real info, mixed in with jerk offs like me, and so on and so forth. And here's a stalker again. Let's see here. 8 new messages. Oh, man. Look at all these stalkers. Yale Security Incorporated in Solon, Ohio. Who's that? Oh, that's interesting. Wow, man. Look at these phone calls. My goodness. What are you losers doing? What in the world? Oh, is this where the video gets boring? I forgot there's 180. Thank you so much. Did everybody enjoy that? John's a drama queen. I am? Cool. Man, they just can't stop calling me. Florida Blue. Steven. Man. Gandy, Florida. Gandy, Florida? Gandy, Florida? Weird. Don't sell your stack yet. It's gonna go to 50 soon. You're talking about silver? If it goes to 50, man, I'm selling it. I'm sorry. Debates have procedures. Use them for better flow. Hey, man, we did all right considering. All right, everybody. I haven't eaten in minutes, so I'm gonna go eat. I don't know what I'm gonna eat, but I'm gonna eat it. It's probably gonna be air fried. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. See you tomorrow. Hopefully, if all is well. By the way, donut operator, Mike the former cop, anyone else who thinks I'm a cop hating loser. I just had a debate with Phoebe. She wasn't scared. She wasn't scared of me. She actually shot back some insults at me. She tried to say that I have privilege and that I'm white, assuming my blah, blah, blah. And that's a good back and forth. Two people with very strong ideas, and we talked it out. The problem with you guys is you're going to have to come on here and defend violence against peaceful people, and you have no argument. That's why you just keep doubling down on the violence and keep cutting off the people. That's why you go silent when anyone asks you a question about your mentality towards the public. All right, everyone. I need food. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. I wish I could go back and read all the comments, but wait, John's white. I'm immediately unsubbing. Oh, man. I'm Greek, dude. Greek Puerto Rican. Thanks, Phoebe, again. Bye, everybody. Have a good day. In the USA, the USSA.